Welcome to Selling in the Age of AI.
Yeah, this is good stuff. So,
Must-listen podcast for sales professionals who lean into technology without leaning on it. Dive into the future of sales with your host, the dynamic and inspiring Frank Somma, renowned keynote speaker, best-selling author, seminar leader, and business coach. Get ready for game-changing insights and strategies that value technology but place humanity at the top of the sales pyramid.
Benvenuti a tutti. Welcome everyone to Selling in the Age of AI, the podcast where we respect the tech but place human-to-human contact squarely at the top of the sales pyramid. I'm Frank Somma, and today I have to pinch myself. I cannot believe that I'm introducing Sam Richter on Selling in the Age of AI. Sam is a Hall of Fame motivational speaker, and I can tell you from being an audience member during one of Sam's talks that honor is richly deserved. I was blown away when I saw Sam speak in Manhattan a few years ago. I only knew Sam as the genius behind the Intel engine at that time, and to see him deliver a talk was an absolute lesson for this professional speaker, and one that I will never forget. Anyway, as I said before that, I'd only known Sam as the creator of Intel engines. Intel engine, and Sam will explain this better, basically makes finding complex information easy for folks who think that a Boolean search is looking through your kitchen cabinets for a little cube to drop in boiling water and make broth. Sam is renowned for his expertise in digital information and builds the AI and chatbot, ChatGPT Intel resources to ensure that you experience immediate success when you use his engines, making him the quintessential guest for selling in the age of AI. So welcome, Sam. And
Well, geez, that was a beautiful welcome. I can I tape that and replay it a lot?
I have to
Can I share it
reiterate,
with my wife?
dude, when I watched you in Manhattan, I was knocked out. Like, I've
Oh,
seen
thanks.
some good speakers. I sat through 8 hours of Tony Robbins at Madison Square Garden. Tony's like the king. But there was something about what you did in a 50-minute talk that you took me from a concept. You were intriguing. I was wondering what the outcome was. Your personality was on fire. And then, you had like a little surprise for me in the end. I was like, oh my God. I was so invested. It was
Thank you.
the best talk I've ever sat through. You're phenomenal.
Oh, that's so nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was
Thank you.
really, really great stuff. So, again, thanks for being on here. And
Yeah.
I gave a little bit of an intro in terms of what you do in terms of making searching and information easier for us and have at our fingertips. Can you give us a kind of a 20,000-foot view?
Sure. So, everything all of the work I do, whether that's building technology products or speaking, coaching, consulting, is all based on, I think, the best sales book ever written, which is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
People massively care about themselves. So every sales book I've ever read, sales course I've taken, sales speaker I've seen has some form of how to win friends and influence people in their program. And fast forward, I do some work with a company called the Summit Group, and they've got some great sales training. And their whole philosophy is very simple. It's called them, us, fit, proof. So, in a complex sale, you got to figure out, what do they care about? What's going on in their world? What do they care about? Obviously, you need to know who your solutions are, the us. So what do we do? Is there a fit? Do what we sell, or our solutions going to help them achieve their goals or alleviate their fears a little bit faster, more efficiently, effectively than they can do on their own? And then give me some proof. Show me that you've done it for other people. Okay. I'm a big believer in the them part. And in the world of AI, it's even become more important because so many salespeople are using the tactics, for lack of a better term, but I don't think they're very genuine. So a simple one, Frank. I've written a book, a best-selling book. Now, don't go buy it because it was years ago and it needs updating. But I think the last update was 2015. I think the internet's changed a tad bit since then.
Just like
But I still get emails every day from people saying, Sam, I was doing some research on you and your latest best-selling book. All right. Have you ever thought of becoming a speaker? I train speakers. And I'm like, dude, just do a little bit of homework. So my point being is there's a lot of, I guess for lack of a better term, fake personalization that's going on in sales right now. And so what I really try to share with others and help them discover is insight. So what's truly going on, whether that's a sales trigger, meaning why do they need your solution right now, to a personality analysis, and people buy differently, to a company analysis. How do you get detailed information on companies, and then how do you use AI to write your lead qualification questions?
Okay.
There's so many ways you can leverage AI to become more efficient, but I don't think it ever takes away genuine authenticity.
That's a really big deal. And having that voice, I had written a piece a few years ago because of these. Hi, Frank, would you like to connect? Yes, thank you. Hey, Frank, would you buy this, and
I know.
this?
I know.
And so I wrote a piece called Show Up and Throw Up.
Yeah,
And I literally just take that link and send it back to people that do that to me.
that's a
And
good idea. Maybe I'll grab your link and do it. Thank you.
yeah, because way back it often was people doing it.
Yeah,
Today,
it's
it's
bots too.
bots doing it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so it's not as poignant a reply as it once
Yeah,
was.
there's
But
there's
it's
nothing
just
wrong with bots, I
no,
mean,
never get me
but
started. But don't pretend to be me.
well, you're familiar with the concept of a commitment objective, right? So every communication needs to have a commitment objective. And oftentimes I'll ask a salesperson, well, what's the commitment objective? And they're like, well, obviously it's to sell them something. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like if I'm using a bot on LinkedIn to connect with you, that's fine.
Yeah.
But my commitment objective is to just get you to accept. And then once you accept, to send you an automated, hey, thank you. Now, once you're in my system, I might tag you, however I do it. And, if I have a piece of relevant content that I know you might be interested in, I still might have a bot serve that. But, um, but I'm not trying to sell you. I mean, my commitment objective is to provide value. My first commitment objective is to just raise my hand and have you notice me. And then after that, it's to provide value to you, not value to me, value to you. And then if you respond with, hey, this looks really interesting, or wow, Sam, I've never thought about it that way. Well, then I'm going in, for lack of a better term, it's a triage, right? At that point, I'm going in and I'm personally answering it.
Hmm. It's interesting because there's two ways to go as a salesperson. And I think the fact that we're talking on selling in the age of AI, this is going to bring this full circle. And one way is this, spray and pray kind of
Yeah.
methodology, right? I can get the automation to reach out to $100,000 different prospects, and somebody else eventually raise their hand and say, "I'll
Yeah.
take it."
And
And
sometimes that's okay.
and it
Sometimes that's a
is.
good
That's
strategy.
a
Yep.
technique, but that's
Yep.
also, I think, it's commoditizing.
Yeah.
And if that's what your business is, if you're selling coffee mugs, great, that'll work for you.
Yep.
This podcast, and I'm sure many of the audiences that you deal with, is there's a lot of professional salespeople, and the shepherding of a client through the business. And as you said, I wrote it down. Them, us, fit, proof is a big part of what we do. So, how do we separate in this world of everything can be done, it seems, in AI. I just watched that fight between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise that
Yeah.
everybody was up in arms about. How do I distinguish myself then? How do I let you know that it's really me? And what kind of strategies do you have that can help me?
Sure. Well, I think and go back to your coffee mug. Sometimes, like you said, spray and pray is fine if it's a commoditized item, but anything that really, I guess I would a complex sale, but
Mm-hmm.
ought to have a human in there at some point in time. And now there's obviously somewhere in the middle, like if it's a complex piece of software like a CRM system. I mean, do I need a human to sell that to me? Probably not. But life insurance, financial services,
Big time.
a big piece of equipment for a company, sure.
Yeah.
So I think, how do you distinguish yourself? Well, first off, I think you have to be honest. And what do I mean by that? Like I have avatars that I use
Mm-hmm.
to send out a video message, but I let people know it's an avatar and I have fun with it.
Right.
I might say something, my avatar might say something like, look, Sam would really love to reach out with you, but he's on the road. Right now, he's probably over the Pacific somewhere flying to New Zealand. So he asked me to create this for you. So you be transparent. You have a little bit of fun with it if you're going to use AI. Um, You have to, even with your, say, email personalization, you've got to be careful in that you don't really want to trick somebody. I think it's fine to personalize,
Yeah.
right? Frank, obviously, Frank, comma, I was reaching out because I saw that
Yeah.
Frank Somma Sales Consulting does, some work in AI. And I wanted to share with you a recent blog post. I think that's okay. I think most people
Yeah.
know that I didn't hand type that.
Right. Templating is okay. I agree.
But I
It's
don't like the
efficient.
fake ones I get. When you're trying to when I'm getting an AI message that's clearly written by AI, I mean, you can tell. Nobody talks like that. Nobody, as I like to say, nobody in the history of sales has ever used an M dash in a sales letter,
Right.
right? Most people don't even know what that is. That's that long double dash that connects each other
Mhm.
in an email. Like nobody uses that. They use what are called commas. But so if I see the M dash, I'm like, okay, automatically I'm flagging that. Now, not necessarily. Maybe there's a Shakespeare in the sales world that I don't know about that's using M dashes. But my point is don't try to trick me. Hey Sam, I saw you speak at such and such a thing, and your topic about, no, you didn't. You saw a LinkedIn post where someone said something about me.
Yeah.
Um, so in the easy way to when I get those, I reply back with something like, "Yeah, what was the most, what was your biggest takeaway?" And then you never hear back from,
No,
because
you know
they're
what's
faking.
my funniest one ever is I wrote a book that's a planning tool back in 2006, another edition 2007, I think it was, and it was a paragraph or two on one side, something inspirational, and on the other side was a planning page, and
Yeah,
then calendar, So I get calls, and it says, "Hi Frank, we're so interested in your book, and we want to turn it into a movie. We
sure. Yeah,
noticed your book, and we want to turn it into a movie." So if it's a email, I write back which book, and it's
yeah,
always the same one.
yeah,
Weekly thought, 52 lessons,
yeah.
and and I'm just going, really, is that the best you have? I
Well,
mean,
I don't know.
come
I
on.
think I think a movie. I think Brad Pitt. You're more of a Tom Cruise should star as you. Frank. The reality is it comes down to one word. I think, and that's relevance.
Hmm.
You can use AI to do your research for sure
Hmm.
and understand what's important to the other person. You can use AI to craft the emails and even automate sending thousands of them where it's a relevant message.
Hmm.
But once someone raises their hand, then it becomes human. So I delineate my leads into two buckets, and this is just my nomenclature. Doesn't mean that
Sure.
it's right, but I say suspect. So a suspect is anybody in the world that say, let's take my speaking. Anybody in the world that could hire me. So anybody that has a conference where they pay their speakers. Now that's a suspect. Now my suspect emails are in the thousands, tens of thousands. And so, I'm not sending tens of thousands of people handwritten emails.
Right.
Hey, thought you'd be interested in this, whatever, whatever. But once somebody responds, and in my world, that response might be, hey, we've already hired our speaker, but you look interesting, stay in touch. Okay, those folks are getting personalized emails
Right.
after that. So those folks become prospects. So how do I manage it? Suspects, I might have 15, 30,000 suspects in the top of my funnel at any given point in time. But in terms of prospects, I try to keep that to around 100 to 150 prospects.
Okay.
That's about how much you can reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
And what I try to do is two a day, 2 to 3 a day.
Okay.
So everybody's getting 3 messages. Every prospect's getting 3 messages a year from me.
Okay.
And, I'll sprinkle in phone calls and things like that.
Hmm.
I think that's pretty manageable.
Sam, technology-wise, the engines that you create,
Sure.
how does that work in like I saw a presentation from you once about being a speaker and how I could use your
Yeah.
systems for that. But how does it work across industries? Can you give me a description of how sales folks and sales companies can use your services?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So how do I build them? I build them, I get hired to speak in an industry. Let's say it's what was the most recent one I built was for the logistics industry, right? So I'm speaking at a logistics conference. And so I've got a base tool. And let me back up. So what the tool does is there's a lot of features in there, but in general, it'll use AI to run about 800 simultaneous LinkedIn searches. And then if you find if it puts the job titles or the job functions of the people you care about across the top, when you click on a link, as long as you're logged into your LinkedIn page, it opens up the LinkedIn page. So it's not scraping LinkedIn or anything like that. And then there's a bunch of other custom tools in there to help you run company research. It's company analysis, personal analysis, contract analysis, all sorts of different tools. And some of them are customized. So for example, in the logistics industry, the job functions that come across after a search might be, warehouse, uh, uh, building manager, uh, operations, finance, purchasing.
Right.
Versus a professional speaker one, it might be event manager, meeting planner, HR executive, sales executive. So the big differences for industries is, so I've got like a base one that covers a lot of industries, but logistics is pretty specific.
Yeah.
Sale or speaker is pretty specific. So then I'll customize them for that industry. I think I've got about 50 now that are customized. And then different ones will also have different features. So for example, my one for financial advisors, I built a proprietary engine that searches for 5,500 plans. Those are qualified plans like 401ks and health benefits. All that information is available off of a government website. I just make it really easy to search. So that's where I will customize things. And then I just build a lot of tools custom for companies. So then a company will say, well, that's really cool, but can you customize it for me? And where the other level of customization is with a custom, I build a GPT system within each one of the engines that's custom for that industry. So what does that mean? Think of, like in the speaker one, think of ChatGPT, but just trained on millions of pages of documents on how to build a successful business, speaking business. So if you think of ChatGPT, its trained data set has to be pretty horizontal, right? It's got to know everything from a chocolate chip cookie recipe to how to perform heart surgery and everything in between.
Right.
So when you build a custom GPT, you're saying, I only want you trained on this specific type of information.
Mm.
And oftentimes that's proprietary information. So that's the other area that's custom in all the industry ones and all the ones that I built for companies, of course, is it leverages either their industry data or for company ones, their specific company data.
Very, very cool. So using the automation tools is what's supposed to get me in contact with the client, and then as we spoke about, the authenticity piece comes in. So in all, I mean, I know you do whatever 100, 150 stages a year, a lot of sales presentations. You've met thousands of salespeople and had these experiences. What do you think are the most important components to someone having a successful sales career? What kinds of things do you see in common amongst people that are very good at this?
Yeah, I would say relevance or the word care abouts. What does the customer really care about? Nobody wants to be, I mean, this is a cliche, right? Nobody wants to be sold, but they don't mind buying something that creates or that solves a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best ones come back to that must fit proof. You got to know your solutions really well, right? Oh,
Right.
and especially, some young salespeople might be like, it's going to take me years to learn it. Fine. But
Right.
then find out who are the people in your company that you can bring in on a complex call when needed. You don't have to be the expert. You just
Right.
have to know who the experts are. So you need to understand your solutions. And then you have to be very genuine on, is it a fit? So what are the pain points that you're having? What, it's that old cliche. What's keeping you up at night? Well, frankly, you should be doing your research. You should have a pretty good idea about what's keeping up
Mm-hmm.
somebody at night. It's not that difficult to find. And then you come with some ideas and thoughts. The key there is listening.
Yeah.
Is oftentimes, because you got to remember, most of our buyers also have access to this little tool called Google and this little tool called ChatGPT. So they've probably already gone in and asked for solutions. So you're not going to fool them, and don't ask stupid questions, right? Ask legitimate and have ChatGPT help you craft really good qualification questions. Well, once you have research where you can feed ChatGPT, you can come up with good qualification questions. And then listen. and then engage. Because your customers are really, if you ask really good questions, I like to say that the second most powerful word in sales is the word permission. The first most powerful word is two words. It's I'll buy. But the second most powerful word is permission, because you got to gain permission to ask those more complex questions.
Right.
But walking in and saying, how big are you guys? All of a sudden, you're not gaining permission. But walking in and saying, hey, I was doing some reading of your CEO's annual report, and it seems like your first quarter initiatives are X, Y, and Z. How are you guys doing on that? Okay, now I have permission to ask the next question.
Right.
So doing a lot of listening, because based on the listening, then I can do the proof.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, it sounds like you're experiencing this problem. Let me share with you how we've helped another company solve that exact problem and see if that would be a good fit. And so it's a constant intelligent questioning, listening, and relevance. Where the them part comes in is you need to know a lot of that information before you walk in the room, before you pick up the phone, before you email. Not that you're going to state fact, because Google and ChatGPT are often wrong, but you're going to use the information to ask more intelligent questions.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if I'm using your products as an individual salesperson and I'm selling, I'm selling heart medicine to heart doctors, or I'm selling
Sure.
eye machines to ophthalmologists that they want to lease over time, these big, things that they fit you. Whatever the product is I'm selling. Am I getting that what's keeping you up at night information when I go into your products?
Yeah. So I've on a company analysis. So I've got a company analysis tool that you just put in the company name, and it's going to go analyze tens of thousands of data points and come back with. Now, if it's a publicly traded company, it's easy to find.
Yeah.
If it's a privately held company, it's going to look at publicly traded companies and the industry, and it'll say, okay, companies in this industry, these are some of the strategic initiatives that are going on.
Mm.
This is likely what they care about. It'll give you some demographic data, size of company, those sorts of things, news articles, recent acquisitions,
Yeah.
those, some of the blocking and tackling. But it even builds out a SWOT analysis. And again, I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to go in and say, hey, I built a SWOT analysis on your company. It sounds like these are your biggest threats. But what it's going to do is give me information to allow me to ask a better question.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say that what was it? One of the examples you used was like a goggle.
Yeah, I
Um,
was saying like I'm an ophthalmologist and I have these various machines that test people's eyes. I have to buy those somewhere. There's a
okay,
guy that
great.
sells them.
So let's say that I run a SWOT analysis on your company and it says that technology is really changing and a lot of companies have to do a lot of capital investment to upgrade their machines. So I might say something along the lines of, and I'm making this up on the fly, so it might be
Please,
really bad.
I like it.
Um, hey, Frank, I was doing a little research, and I know that a lot of companies in your industry are now upgrading their technology. I know that now is a pretty good time because the big, beautiful tax bill, you can write off the entire piece of capital equipment in 1 year. I'm wondering, are you experiencing the same issues with technology? Are you looking at upgrading and where are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
So that wasn't a great question, but at
Yeah,
least
but
it's
Sam,
relevant.
doesn't that beat the heck out of, hi, this is Frank. I'm wondering, you interested in upgrading your equipment?
Yeah, exactly.
You're
Exactly.
coming in with knowledge, and
Now,
we live in
even better, a better question would be, hey, Frank, I was doing some research. I saw that you just signed a lease to expand your eye clinic facility to two additional locations.
right.
Have you thought about, so again, now that's a sales trigger. If I can find a sales trigger, and my tools all have sales trigger identifiers, if I can find a sales trigger, that's even better. Sales trigger could be a merger, acquisition, lawsuit, a new hire, a new promotion.
Yeah.
Statistically, we know that if somebody was hired or promoted in the past 3 months, they're very open to creative ideas. Why? Because they want to impress their boss on how smart they are. So, if you can find those, even better.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if I go back to the beginning and how to win friends and influence people, and you also touched on before you said have somebody in your company if you don't have the knowledge of the specifics of the equipment, have somebody else that's more senior. And so that brings me right back to Napoleon Hill on mastermind groups.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes I feel like when I say these things, being the old guy that I am, I always I'm always concerned that the folks that are listening to this that are half my age maybe are thinking I'm going to ask them to get a quill pen and an inkwell to sign their orders. But there are just some things that are timeless, and I
Yeah,
think Dale Carnegie's line, remember the person you're talking to cares more about his own toothache than he does about an earthquake that just killed 10,000 people in China,
no
if I
question
remember the
about it.
quote right.
Yeah,
And that's the thing, is to
yeah,
go in asking questions. And I think what I love about you and what your products do is it allows me to ask questions with knowledge and research, but I don't have to spend 3 hours sorting through
yeah.
research.
And it's all about relevance. It's all about just sometimes the relevance can be personal. And I always tell a joke but it's true. If I make it a point to meet with a lot of people, and this is going to sound arrogant. It's not meant to be. Sometimes I'll meet with people, and friends of mine will say, "Why are you meeting with that person? That person can't do anything for you." And I'm
Right.
like, "That's exactly why I'm meeting with that person, because maybe I can do something for them." Because I can tell you a lot of my success has come from meeting people you look at the calendar, you're like, "Why are you meeting with that person?" But anyhow, so saying that, if somebody called me out of the blue right now and said, "Hey, I'd like to meet for coffee. I heard you're a good guy, whatever." I'd look at my calendar and I'd say, "Hey, what are you doing? I'm really booked. What are you doing in May?" I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we'd get on the calendar, but it would be May. Now I used to play football at the University of Minnesota. So if somebody, and I'm a journalism graduate. So if
Mm-hmm.
somebody called me and said, "Hey, I'm a University of Minnesota graduate," I'd be like, "Oh, what are you doing in April?" "I'm a University of Minnesota graduate from the journalism school." "Oh, what are you doing in March?" "I'm a University of Minnesota graduate in journalism and I just finished playing football." I'm like, "What are you doing Saturday?" And I'm genuine about that. That's how it would go in my mind.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
you can also use these tools to find a connection.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they serve on a board where you're really passionate about the nonprofit they're on.
Right.
Obviously, the best one some people say referrals. I like introductions.
Yeah.
I mean, referrals are fine, but if I go into my and it's easy to do via LinkedIn, just like find people that Frank knows. Like if I reached out to you, Frank, and said, "Oh, hey Frank, I saw that we're both connected to Sylvie DeGusto. Would you do me the favor of an introduction?"
Right.
You're absolutely going to do it. I mean, now if you know her, I mean, you might say, "I just link with a bunch of people. I don't know who that is,"
Right.
but if you know her, you're going to make an introduction. So trying to find those areas of relevance are so important. And what's crazy, I use my father-in-law as an example. He passed 26 years ago.
Okay.
And I always tell the story about at his funeral, all these customers came up to my wife and talked about how much Ken knew about their company. Ken knew about our competitors. Ken knew about our issues. Ken knew that my daughter is going to Stanford on scholarship. And
Right.
I always joke, how is it possible that at a time when if Ken wanted to call one of his customers, he had to drive around downtown Minneapolis, find a glass booth on a corner, walk out, stick a dime in a machine? For
Mm-hmm.
those of you under the age of 30, it's called a phone booth. Google it. How is it possible that Ken knew more about his customers than most people listening today know about their customers? And most people listening today have a device that has every word ever written, printed in human history accessible in a device that fits in your pocket.
Wow.
It's because Ken had a care about mindset.
Yeah.
And the reality, Frank, if you don't mind me, one last thing on my soapbox here. Sorry, I've had a lot of coffee this morning.
Ha!
Um, a lot of sales has become data driven.
Yeah.
How many calls did you make? What's the average response rate? The percentage of people that request a proposal, the percentage of people that buy, the average order size. Oh, let's spend our time entering that data into CRM systems. I'm not saying that's important, but the more we spend time inputting data, the less time we spend caring about our customers. The good news about generative AI is a lot of those data heavy tasks are starting to become automated.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and the reason I bring that up is you were kind of talking about the way things used to be, right? Us old guys get to talk about the way things used to be. I think we're actually going to be leveraging technology so we can go back as salespeople and sell the way things used to be.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I think it's still, listen, human to human contact is still the same thing.
Yeah.
Understanding the nuances of that contact. And even, in person versus, there's some great studies about being in person versus being on the phone
For
versus
sure.
email, and the
Yeah.
statistics behind that. But it almost harkens back to, like, you can do everything data driven and you can have every piece of information and it all could be right. But to me, it's kind of like sports betting in that the best team never wins. The team who plays best that day wins. So
Let's
it's
say
not
hockey versus Canada the other day.
exactly.
They play
They,
5 times. It might be 3-2 Canada. I don't
sure,
know.
sure. And you can have all the data in the world that says this team ought to win
Yeah.
on any given day, right? Isn't that the expression? So on the sales side, I think we have to leverage the only thing that I have control over is me and my
Yeah.
training. So I want to automate getting the data. I want to subscribe to your Intel engines. I want to get all of the information I can have so I can be, as you said, relevant when I show up and ask proper questions. And then remember that, you don't want to be commoditized. If you're not in a point and click kind of
Yeah.
business, you've got to realize that you're the only difference but for that customer, right? So whether you go to, Joe's optical machine or Bill's optical machines, it may not matter that much to you. But when Frank shows up and he's working for Joe's,
You're buying from Frank.
exactly
You're
that
buying
that's
from Frank. There's no
that's where
question.
it comes from.
It's, but and again, we're talking on the complex sale here.
Yeah.
But in my generative AI program, I put up a chart at the end. So I talk about the shift mindset shift. And shift is an acronym. S is streamlining workflow, H, harness expertise, I is innovation, F, focus strategically. But T is thrive as a human. So you use the S, the H, the I, and the F to automate a lot of mundane tasks to differentiate from your competition.
Mm-hmm.
But it leads you to the T. And then when I talk about the T, I talk about everything that AI can't do and probably won't be able to do in our lifetime, in our kids' lifetime, grandchildren's lifetime for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's things like AI can't show vulnerability. It doesn't have empathy. It doesn't have compassion. It doesn't have courage. It doesn't listen. It doesn't have trust, right? In a world where trust is eroding, can't believe anything anymore, right? Um,
yeah,
that's probably the most important thing. You got to build trust with people. And it doesn't have your wisdom. Remember this, and this is super important. Generative AI, ChatGPT, Perplexity, I don't care what kind of system you build, it's generative, meaning it makes something up based on probabilities and predictions. Now, there's some things you can do to feed. I mean, if you know prompt engineering, and I've got tools that automate all this,
yeah.
um, you can massively reduce it, but you're not going to get it to zero.
Right.
You're not. And so it's, I like to say, use generative AI, use all these tools to get you 85% of the way there. It makes you massively efficient. Like it might free up 10 hours a week,
Yeah.
but people, I believe, and I believe this is going to be more important, again, for the complex sale,
Mm-hmm.
not coffee mugs, but complex sale, your ability to have wisdom based on your experience and look at something that generative AI creates or listen to a customer. Because oftentimes, what the question that the customer is asking, based on your experience, that's not the question that the customer should be asking.
Right.
AI is not going to know that.
Right.
And so the role of the salesperson is incredibly important to build that trust, to show your wisdom based on experience.
Mm-hmm.
You leverage AI to give yourself 5, 10, maybe 20 extra hours a week where you can actually provide that value.
Yeah, because back in the day, I had a trunk full of brochures, etc., and I'd show up, and I was the bringer of information as
Yeah.
well as the professional salesperson. And I ask salespeople, what do you love about selling? Oh, I love when that moment when the guy,
Yeah.
signs and I get the deal. I go, great, that represents about 1/2 of 1% of your selling life.
Yeah.
What about the other 99.5%, which is finding your way to that moment? And I think what you're saying
Yeah.
to me today and to our audience is that these tools that you have and using generative AI should be to get you to that moment, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
want to use these tools so that most of my time is spent in front of somebody, whether I'm at a networking meeting, whether they called me and said that they were from the journalism school and they played football, I'm going to meet them on Saturday, or whether I'm at a coffee shop and I'm introducing myself to the person next to me, and like whatever it is. The best of me is people facing, and
Yeah.
anything else that I can job out, and especially in today's day and age with tools like you're providing, I want to job that stuff out.
Yeah, for sure. And again, one of the other tools I built is a tool called Intel Leads. I built that with a partner company, Cantata. And what Intel Leads does is it's a conversational list building tool. Because again, when you're selling coffee mugs, nothing wrong with lists, right?
Right.
But building lists the old-fashioned way of going into a system and you know, figuring out what the functions are and figuring out the seniority levels and all that versus with Intel Leads, you go in and you say something like, I need a list of HR managers within 50 miles of New York City at manufacturing companies doing more than $500 million a year. And then it builds the list. So the point being is you're like, so what? Well, I just saved 20 minutes. So what? I do that 100 times a year. Oh, well, that's 2,000 minutes. Well, so what? 2,000 minutes is almost an entire week's worth of work. Well, so what? And now what I'm about to say isn't mathematically correct, but I'm using it to illustrate something.
Sure.
If I can save 2,000 minutes a week on one simple task, guess what, Frank? I now have 53 weeks a year to sell, and you only have 52 weeks a year because I just bought myself 2,000 minutes. Now, that's just one simple task. Think of all the tasks that a salesperson can do.
Yeah.
What can be automated that's not customer facing per se?
Yeah.
And how could you free up your time to do what matters?
I love that. I love that. That's fabulous. Sam, I won't keep you any longer. You've been super generous with
Oh,
your
thank
time.
you. Yeah,
But,
thanks.
is there any last minute stuff? How do you want folks to reach you? If I know 5 companies that could use your products, what do
Oh,
I do?
thank
Do I
you.
send them to your website? Do I give you an introduction?
Oh gosh, can I give
What
you
do you
3
want to do?
websites?
Okay.
So Intel Leads is INTELLEADS.ai.
Good.
That's more of a list building sales preparation tool. Intel Engine is INTL, and then of course I had to get cute with the name, NGIN. So IntelNGIN.com. And I think I've got probably 8 different ones on there now, the most
Wow.
popular versions. But if you want one, let me know. Like I said, I've got 56 of them. And then one that is currently free, but I'll probably end up charging it because it costs me money. But I just launched it the other day. It's called You Got Prompts, YOUGOTPROMPTS.
That's
What
fabulous.
that does is you can put in like a simple sentence. Here's what I'm trying to achieve. And it will build you a very detailed prompt that reduces hallucinations down to like almost nothing. And then you copy it, you paste it in ChatGPT. You will be shocked at the results on that.
That's
And then I
great.
have another tool that's also free. It's completely free to use. This will always be free. It's called You Got Intel, YOUGOTINTEL.com. That's a tool that helps you research the hidden pages on somebody's websites, find existing lists, build lists, find existing documents online. There's a lot of cool tools that are inside of there.
So, how do you look as good as you do when I know that you don't sleep at all? Because there's no way
All
you could have done all of this and slept.
all AI, baby. You're not even talking to a human being. No. Um, the reality is I use AI to make me efficient as I can. And the beauty of traveling is I get a lot of time on planes and in hotel lounges,
Yeah.
hotel rooms and airport lounges.
Yeah,
So,
I was really angry when I got internet on flights
oh, I
because
know.
that was like my time to
Uh,
read a
Read a
crazy
book, watch a
novel or write
movie.
a new piece or whatever, and I don't want
I
to be
know.
tempted to get an email.
I'll tell you the way when I travel overseas, it's like because I travel enough that I get upgraded to the lay down beds, and I'm
Yeah,
like, this is gonna be awesome because it's gourmet food. You get to sleep, get to
yeah,
watch a movie. It was so disappointing is the last time I went to Asia, they had internet all the way over there. And I'm like, "Ah, I got to work the whole time."
Oh, isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, well. Well, Sam, thanks again so
Okay.
much.
Thank you. Good
All
to
of
see
what you
you.
gave me, of course, will be in the show notes for everybody to be able to get to your sites. And hey, everyone, this has been an absolute lesson in selling and a great blend of what's happening right now and some wisdom that is absolutely timeless. So, Sam, thank you again.
Thank you. It's been an honor, Frank. Good to see you.
All right.
Ready to take your sales team or event to the next level? Visit franksomma.com to discover how Frank can coach your top performers, deliver a tailored workshop for your team, or captivate your audience with a content-packed keynote at your next event. Frank's best-selling book, B2B is really P2P, is now available on Amazon and Frank's website. Here's a special offer. As a valued listener, mention this podcast when you contact Frank and receive a 10% discount on your first coaching session, keynote, or workshop booking.
That's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Selling in the Age of AI. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to all of the topics we discussed, and of course, to connect with our amazing guests. I have to shout out big love to my production team, Neeks, Angelo, Nico of Digital Presence. You guys rock. If you want your digital presence to explode, check these guys out at digitalpresence.team. And until next time, remember, people can't point and click you. Be the difference maker for your prospects and clients.